Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords. And today I have an amazing episode, and I'm super excited to talk about everything human design and everything astrology with this dynamic duo that I found on Clubhouse. I am like ecstatic to be here. So I have Miss Casey and Seven, who Casey is centered in human design, and she is a human design coach, and she helps people feel aligned in their human design blueprint. And I also have Seven, who is a professional astrologer and also an astrologer teacher, where she teaches people how to use their own cosmic energy and become aligned with the universe. Welcome, ladies. I am so happy you are here. And please introduce yourself and let the listeners know a little bit about you.
All right, you want to go first, Seven?
I mean, I can bang it out. So okay. My name is Seven, 7D. I'm the creator of Black Girl Magi. You can find me on Instagram with Black Girl Magi with 2 eyes. You can find me on TikTok under Black Girl Magi. And I also have my own Patreon where I am trying to break down astrology from a traditional standpoint in order for people to be able to do their own work on their own charts or even help the people around them. So if you're interested in any of that, that's what I do. I've taught hundreds of people about astrology and can't wait to continue. Human design is kind of where I started, and we'll get into all of that. I kind of got initiated into me being an astrologer because of this lady down here and human design and finding out who I was. And I was like, oh, so let me put my energy in this way. So from then on, I went to school for astrology. I've been graded, had papers on charts and signs, and had to turn in stuff into a professor and all of that. And now that I have that knowledge, I want to pass it on. So that's who I am, 7D.
I love that. Casey, introduce yourself and let everybody know about you.
Okay, yes. So I am Casey. I am an artist, a singer, and musician. I found human design. It found me as I was burning out, and this came to me as a lifeline, and it opened up a whole nother portal. And once we kind of go in, I don't know, hopefully we'll be able to get to that, because human design, it's so hard to talk about it without explaining everything first. So it ends up being such a long topic. So I'm gonna do my best not to, but just who I am, I learned it, and being within a network, I just kept getting asked, hey, what's different? And I explained it. And so I don't necessarily have all of the educational background as my genius friend over here. I always call her a genius in every sense, like as you see, you'll see. But I got it and I started sharing it, and then it started opening doors for me to share it in other spaces, to make income from it. So that's kind of where I've just fallen into it, as a 2-4 projector would do. I met Seven kind of, that's why I was saying when you said how we met, I don't know how we met. It's like we just knew each other. And
yeah, we were in the same circles. Yes. I was a host for my own open mic that I had in the 757 DMV area. And I knew about Casey because she was a poet and a songstress. And I knew of her, saw her perform, but we never really got together until I left the DMV, and I was still connected with a mutual friend of ours. And she was just like, you two are so similar. Like, why aren't y'all talking more? And we ended up connecting because of that mutual friend. And it's been a blessing because both of us are projectors. Yeah. And once we get into what those types are, your listeners will understand a little bit more on why it's so important to understand what type you are, what strategy you are, and how it helps you to feel supported when you get around people who have similar things to you, especially in human design.
Okay, that is awesome. So let's kind of get into the human design. So when you guys met, you guys were on your own path, and then were you guys both into human design the time that you met?
I don't know if Seven had come across it yet, because Seven, naturally, you just learn things. But I remember, I forgot how the human design portion of it came up.
Yeah, our mutual friend told me, because I was into astrology, and he was like, you need to sit down and talk to Casey because she's been doing human design. And I think if she does a reading for you, I think it'll clear up some things. So we did a reading, and that reading was like 3.5, 4 hours long.
We were just on there because we were just talking. Like, it's almost like how this will be like. It was just a natural conversation. And as certain things would be said, I'm like, oh, well, that probably aligns with your this. And that's really how the conversations between me and Seven go.
So what is human design for people who do not know, have never heard of it, and they're like, what is human design? What are they talking about? What the heck's a projector? Like, what is it? So people kind of have a background, just a little bit of what does it mean?
I'm gonna keep it small. The simplest definition that I can think of is the science of differentiation. Right. So just how we are based off of who we are not and how we compare to each other. Almost like that movie. It begins with it, Divergent, how they all had different sets that they were in. And the only difference is we're not meant to just be completely isolated from each other. We all work together in a perfect machine and we each play different parts. So not everyone is built the same way. So that's why a human designer learning it is important, because chances are, like me and Seven, if you're a projector or you're a smaller percentage, you're probably raised by someone who's not what you are. And they're teaching you what works best for them instead of what works best for you. So human design is based off of almost everything. It seems like it's the conglomerate of all the other practices, like I Ching, astrology, genetics, Kabbalah is in there. There's so much that's in there, and it just gives you the bigger picture of the blueprint. So it's really the same thing. There's so many things when me and Seven are talking. I keep pointing down because you're under here.
Yeah, you're under me too.
Like I keep forgetting that's not how we're made.
She's right here. She's probably up here. I don't know where she's at.
It is. But so many things intermingle. It's really so they back each other up, and that's why I knew that human design was true, because I started learning with astrology, and that was the first spiritual practice that I could read, and I was like, yes, this is it. Like, even I grew up very Christian. Well, I'll let everyone, I was about to say quite like my friend Seven, and there were always parts of it where I'm reading, I'm like, yeah, that's true. But there were so many buts that just didn't click in my mind, and people would explain it to me, and I'm not dumb, but I still wouldn't understand. Right. But when I got to astrology and human design, I would read something and it was complete. And so it's like my body was telling me, and I'm not going to get into details yet, but as my body, I have a type where my body will tell me the truth. And my body was like, this feels right. And the more people I meet, it plays out in front of my face. Like, it's like magic, and it almost feels like I'm cheating, but
yeah,
sometimes it feels wrong, just because I like to dig into things and know things I shouldn't. And I'm a Scorpio, so I can be in a way, I'll get someone's birth information without them knowing. And then I just,
not good. You're not supposed to do that.
I know. That's why I was like, I said it quietly because I knew Seven was going to be on here. I know.
Not supposed to do that.
Outside.
So for human design, what types are there? Like, there's 4 or there's more?
There's 4, but there's a 5th one that falls underneath the generator. So, I mean, it's supposed to follow the same things as the generator. It's called a manifesting generator. So they'll say it's 4 types, but there's really 5 if you're including that manifesting generator.
Because they are they're like I said the Targaryen just because family messes with family, but they're not really the same. But the manifesting generator follows the same like strategy of both. So whereas a generator is meant to respond and a manifester is meant to inform, the manifesting generator will respond and then inform. Right. So it's like they get the best of both worlds. They get to initiate. But they do the same thing, but just a little bit quicker. But they'll end up at pretty much the same point as a generator would, but generator may take a little longer.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying when you're describing human design. As an astrologer and traditional astrologer, like I'm a Virgo, by the way. So just to give you like
Virgo.
Super Virgo.
He's a super Virgo.
Like I am a Virgo rising, I am a Virgo sun, I'm a Virgo Mercury, and that Virgo Mercury is on the ascendant. Okay, so it's like, I'm very specific when it comes to stuff like that. Tweaking is my thing. So astrology is beautiful, right? And I love it. I'm in love with it. However, the things that popular astrology is trying to do, where it's trying to kind of give these personality descriptions, and it's kind of forgetting about the timing and prediction and cycles that astrology is supposed to do. Like it kind of puts that on the back burner for pop astrology, and it's trying to bring more of this personality description or categorization to the forefront, where it's like you're using a Tesla to go to your neighbor's house. Like this, the goal of astrology is so much deeper than just personality description. And to be quite frank, I don't think that the way that it's being done is doing it in the right space. So when you have human design and it comes along, it is a much better manual to your human expression than astrology can ever be, for me, in my space. I think that astrology is great at telling you the timing of when and where and what you should be doing, or where you are in the scheme of your life. But as far as like letting you know the manual on how to use your energy, how to use your aura, how your aura interacts with other people, that is all human design. So people who lean more to this human design, it's not a new astrology. It's completely, for me, different, even though they are lovely supporters of each other. It's completely different. So we have your manifestors as one type, a projector as another type, generators as another type, and underneath there is manifesting generators. And then you have the reflectors. So there's 4 types, even though I listed 5, there's 4 to answer your question.
Okay. That's cool. So when you guys first met and you like became friends and started hanging out and, you know, got centered with each other through the mutual friend, and you guys weren't necessarily on maybe like a human design space, or you were kind of studying astrology and how did you like get into like, this feels good right here with this human design. Like, this is what I like. This is what I like to talk about. This is like what I want to kind of, because it seems like your guys' friendship really picked up on the fact that you had a lot of the same traits. Like you guys had a lot of the same interests and a lot of the same goals. So how did that kind of like become aligned with who you're at and where you're at right now?
I'll say from my point of view, when she did the human design for me, when Casey did that for me, it sparked me to understand that, first of all, again, I'm a Virgo. So I always thought that I was giving information and giving guidance to people, and they were rejecting it because of my delivery. You know, Virgos can be very brash or blunt or dry with their delivery, and they're just trying to help. They're trying to be of service, but they can organize you in a very critical or dry way. So I just thought that I'm not going to give any guidance to people, even though I know what they should be doing, unless they like explicitly let me know that they want that. When I had the reading with Casey, she let me know that I was a projector. And one of the things for projectors is our aura is very specific. It penetrates into other people's aura. And we're able to pick up information. And that's the reason why we're great guiders, because we know how to guide other people's energy. We know how to recognize it and know what it's best used for. But the problem is you have to be invited. You have to be invited as a projector. Once you find out you're a projector, and we're only 21% of the population. Once you find out that you're a projector, you're like, oh, I have to wait for an official invitation for people to ask for my guidance and recognize me as a guide. And also choose the right invitations because not everybody who is inviting you is really prepared and ready for their life to be guided. Right. So once we had that conversation, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be an astrologer. I'm working at a therapy clinic for kids, losing my mind. Okay, losing my mind, because projectors are not energy people. We don't manifest our own energy, right? So we're supposed to be like doing something and then chilling. And when she told me about that, I was like, oh, so I'm using all of this energy to try and guide this lovely corporation to do like nothing, like just to like be burnt out and exhausted. So once I left that conversation and started my own astrology like journey, and I went to school for astrology, I realized this friend that I had was invaluable, because this is the first friend that I was able to go to and be like, yo, I don't know what's going on. Like, my life should be great. I have a degree in psychology. I'm using it at this space, but I am like going nuts. Like, what's going on? And for her to use human design and be who she is as like a friend, like putting that aside, that's why our friendship kind of went up in the air. Because from my point of view, it's like, this friend is invaluable. I need to be able to call her up and be like, girl, I don't know what's going on. And she gets it more than anybody because of the fact that she's also a projector too. So she knows how to guide my energy like I do for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I definitely, of course, I concur with that, because I was a part of that. So I was there too. So I concur. But I think another aspect of it, and Seven said this before when she was giving me my astrology readings, because that part is invaluable. This girl can like dig on there, predict something that's going to happen. You lose your keys, she can find them. And it's like, I didn't even know it went that deep. So it's like every 1-3 in my life, I hold on to, because they're like the breakers of foundations. They rebuild new ones. But she did say like astrology and human design, it's like a language. And once it's in you, it's all it is. Like, so many times I'm talking, I call them muggles, no disrespect, but just the civilians of the world that aren't really into this aspect of life. But sometimes I find it hard trying to pull that language back and speaking the before, like my native tongue, I should say. So with us, it just naturally, like what happened on Clubhouse was really just us just going back and forth and just talking, because Seven she really is like that mouthpiece that's able to pull everything together and put it out to the masses where they understand it. The people who need to understand it are able to understand it. So she's like your teacher's teacher, right? And then people, so you got to have a certain master's level of degree to even be able to get to converse with Seven. So it's like she gives us that opportunity. The other people, then they go give it to the masses, or not even necessarily the masses, but just the people who are opening up to it, because there are certain things of human design that even I'm still learning, like the arrows and the kitchens and the caves, and it goes so deep. It's literally like,
wait, what? Right.
Exactly. It goes to, it can tell you where you're supposed to eat, when you're supposed to eat your food. Like, it goes so deep. And it's like, but you can only get to the next level when you fully understand the level you're at. And I think having astrology, being able to have started with astrology, it made it easier to open my mind to those type of connections, because they really do play together. Like Seven can tell you between like transits and all those things on the astrology side, and then human design also utilizes transits and everything else. It can be overwhelming. And I think that's why it was genius of Seven to be putting out these classes, teaching you how to do yourself, because there's only so much you can't afford. The average person cannot afford to have an astrologer all the time. That's true. What I mean? To be able to have that mutual beneficial relationship. So it's like, let me give you at least so you can come with the right questions. Because if you're coming with me with like, oh, my husband's a Sagittarius, are we going to work? It's going to blow your mind. Like, you're not ready. You're not ready yet. So it's like, I think that was.
Well, Sagittarius men are their own episode.
Oh, honey. Sagittarius, all of that. I agree. I agree.
Put me on that one. I got a Sagittarius. I want that one. Put me on that episode.
But so what is the similarity between astrology and human design? So I feel like like when I see both, because I'm more into astrology, so I get astrology, like, but human design, I mean, I just don't get it. Like I try, I mean, I look, but I haven't even really researched it either, but I just don't really get it at first, you know? And I think for most people who are like learning about it, I feel like for astrology can still work without human design, but can human design work without astrology? Is it like, what do they have between, like, what makes them similar and what makes them different?
I know that it uses astrology in the sense of like opening your gates. So I know we're introducing a new word here. So gates are kind of they come from the I Ching, right? And in order for something to be defined, that means a planet had to be in a certain area in the ecliptic or in the zodiac wheel, had to be at a certain space in order for that center to be defined, to be activated. So if your sun is in a certain space, my sun is in Virgo, towards the end of Virgo. So that means that there is a gate that I have activated because my sun is in that part of Virgo. So that is the crossover of how astrology is used in there. But as an astrologer, and this is me, and this is my own personal thing, like it's my own personal shit, right? I do not think that it uses astrology in the way that people say that it uses astrology. They're just like, oh my God, astrology is just used so much in human design. Personally, this is a different divination system. This is a different system to get all together. And a lot of people get really caught up in that. And I'm like, I mean, outside of like the sun being in certain gates that equal the same thing as like transits being in certain spaces, that's kind of it, like for real. But the
So
reason
a full moon won't affect a human design chart?
I mean, it
It's a
will.
reflector.
Right.
So it's, I think it's the same as like geometry uses numbers and trigonometry uses numbers.
Right.
You know, like it's the similar things. Like even like geometry itself is based off of planets and where they can. That's why they learn geometry. So it's like everything in this, not to sound crazy, but this universe is going to be based off of the planets and how they relate to each other. So it's like astrology is doing it this way, just like maybe someone who studies blood would do it this way, but human design, maybe they're studying the muscles, but you have to know about blood in order to understand this part of the body too. So it's like they all fit together in a way. So it's just looking at the same cube from a different maybe side or a different depth, how close or far away you are, I was thinking.
Correct.
That's really cool. Yeah.
You don't need to learn astrology. And that's what I thought. And that's the reason why when Casey introduced this whole human design thing to me, I was just like, oh, I want to know, you know, because I've been into astrology for real my entire life, but I was a preacher's kid. Both my parents were pastors. So astrology was not going to happen in the house. So it was very,
no.
You know what I mean? Like it was very, very sneaky the way that I would like gain that information. However, like when she introduced the human design, I really wanted to get into it, but every place that I went to on YouTube was telling me that I needed to know astrology inside and out in order for me to understand human design. And now that I know astrology inside and out, that is not true. Like human design is its own system. It literally, you know, like how people will say, I had a kid and it didn't come with a manual and I'm just like kind of winging it as a mom. Like this is the manual. The way that astrology would try and do this is like, okay, I have a Venus in Libra. So it's like, okay, the way you love is very, very like you need communication because it's in an air sign. So you need words of affirmation in order for you to be in a relationship, and you need to be able to be with someone who can talk and all of that. However, if I'm saying that just based off of Venus being in Libra and just disregarding my 7th house in Pisces, then I will really think that I don't really need an emotional connection. It's all mental with a person. And that's just not true. So in order for you to get the same information that you're getting from this manual in human design, like you have to do a lot of stuff in astrology in order for you to get that one sentence that you could just read in human design. So that's why I think personally that human design is a better manual for how you should live. It just doesn't give, for me, it doesn't give you the timing of when and what and where you should be doing stuff. That's where I come in as an astrologer. That's how I feel. That's my preference, but not everybody feels that way.
Right. Because
oh, sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, before we started recording, I was talking about that. I never saw many human design coaches or readers focus on any of the astrological transits that might be coming up or any of that. So I was wondering, does that not matter in human design, or like how, of course it matters because they're like using astrology as well, but like, I just didn't really ever see that focus. So I think that was one of the reasons why it's very hard for me to get centered on human design, because I'm like, so confused.
Transits matter. Transits matter. I'm
matter.
talking about like zodiacal releasing and Fredaria and annual perfections. Like these are the things that are going to get you down to the day, hour, and second of when you need to do something. But there are transits in human design, and I'll let Casey get into that.
And I think that's where the transits from astrology transfer over to the ones, because it's activating certain gates within us, which activate certain whichever chakra that we're dealing with, one of our centers. So there's certain points where, because my old app, which I had to delete it because it stopped working 7 and now I can't get it back, but it was this amazing app and it showed you the transits. And there are certain times where I have different centers lit up that I don't normally have lit up, and I can access that energy. And especially for reflectors who are completely open, transits definitely matter.
Everything.
Like they're pretty much, I don't want to say a slave to them, but they're just completely open. So they're a leaf in the wind. So I think that it's very similar, because human design to me would be better before astrology. Like if you learned human design and you learn how you're supposed to learn. And like for Seven, she's an investigator, she's a researcher. So like this would open her up to like, okay, if I focus my attention here, I can get everything I need from there. So it's like human design, like it's like the basic blocks, whereas the astrology, it delves into just something a whole bunch deeper and more complicated. Even though human design is complicated, and the teachers may not speak on transits because there's so much before transits as far as human design is concerned. Like by the time you get to the planetary placements, you've got to have the entire basics, like your type, strategy, authority. You got to even know what the different channels are, but first you got to know what's open and or defined, undefined. So it's a whole series of things. Like I forgot what it was called, but that one place, I guess in Egypt, and everyone went and stole a piece of it. And it's like the different religions. Where was it where Jesus was, where he was for a moment? And like he disappeared and they said he went to some school, like, and then he came back.
Was it the pyramids?
I think it was over in that area.
I don't know. I know he went to Egypt, especially like.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Because I remember someone telling me a while ago, and it was the Moors. I used to hang out with the Moors a lot, but I remember them saying that they, like, it's some large school that had everything and you're supposed to go to it for like decades of your life. But once things started being colonized, people were just taking pieces and not the whole picture of it.
Oh, I don't know that. I know that he went to a mystery school in Egypt, but I do not know the name of that mystery school.
And it may not, I mean, and the Bible, I have a weird relationship with the Bible, so I take everything with a grain of salt anyway.
It's a beautiful book.
I know, it's like the muscle memory of Christianity sometimes makes it hard to like, oh, no, it's not, I forget. But it's a daily burn. It's like 20 years worth of shit coming out.
Girl.
It's the first curse word. I'm proud of us.
So, okay, so I have a question. So when you guys started getting into the human design and doing the readings and getting there, how did you fully become aligned with human design where you're like, was there like a moment, was there an event, was there something that really said like, this is it? This is, like you said, like you felt like this was the blueprint of what you needed to know wrapped up in one. Like, what was there a certain event or a time that said, this is it?
I think like with human design, just the way that I found it, it was magic. Like it just seemed like so many coincidences and synchronicities. And then especially projectors, it hits us hardest because we're the ones who have the most deconditioning to do. But I was raised by a manifesting generator who can do multiple things at once, and we're just so different. And so I was on a path that she had laid out. And when someone told me and came to me and was like, you're not supposed to work, the relief that came over my body, like the amount of times I had sat in a parking lot crying because I didn't want to go into work and didn't understand why. Didn't understand, like, no, I can't think of any dream job. Like what they said, I don't dream of labor. Like that's how I felt. And when someone came to me and said, you're not supposed to work, I was like, what? And then when they told me like when I learned everything, I couldn't help but just delve into it and be like, this is right. My body felt it. And once I started applying it, it was the first thing magic just started appearing, especially like as a projector, invites came from out of nowhere. Like every time, like and even Seven can attest to a lot of stuff recently, but anytime I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, the minute I just release and just get in alignment, it just falls. It does what human design says every time. So like I said before, Christianity, the Bible didn't do that for me. Math didn't even do it for me. I mean, I know it's always equals once, but that quadratic, all the other things, just certain things did not fit, but this one fit. And when I left Christianity, when I was like in college, and I was terrified because I thought that meant I was going to go to hell. So I was researching everything. Like, what do these people think God is? Who is this? Da, da, da.
Right.
And this was the only thing that didn't leave me with more questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not like, I always like tell people I don't really consider myself very religious at all. Except for I'm, a spiritual person, and I believe in, that everyone's religion is right for them, right? Like whatever it is that they believe that makes them feel aligned with their own energy, then that's what's right for them. And growing up, I don't know, like my mom was Catholic, but I was baptized, but we never went to church. Like, like my mom was like, the best liar is a Catholic, the most witchiest religion is a Catholic, like for a reason, because it's the elements of the universe, and they're taking that in. So, but anyways, but what is it that made you feel aligned, Seven, with human design? Did you have a moment too that kind of
the fact that it took me to astrology.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, once I set up my space where you have to come to me, you have to book an appointment in order for you to get guidance from me, my whole life aligned. Like I quit my job, quit it. From Washington State down to Nevada, my bad for those who are listening who are from here. All right. Nevada. And then they can't say Nevada. Do not say that. It's Nevada. So yeah, I moved to Nevada, and my whole life changed because I knew how to use my energy. I knew what to do. When I interact with people, I am provoking them to recognize me. And I'm also provoking them to invite me to help them in some way, shape, or form. Right. So if that is the case, then all I got to do is set up a system where you are giving me an official invitation to help you. And me doing that and telling my friends like, hey man, if you don't ask, I'm not giving it to you. I mean, literally, I want to say 4 or 5 days ago, I had like this lovely conflict with another person. And I was like, we got to clear this up. And they were just like telling me that I was like their teacher on some level and shape or form. And I was like, you never formally put me in that space. So there's stuff that you're
like,
doing.
where is my check? Right.
Right, well, that too. No. But no, honestly, to be honest, they were actually trying to give me money.
Oh.
Because they were trying to say that I was their teacher. And I was like, well, that never has been established, because if it had been, there are certain things and practices that you're doing and habits that you're doing that I would have corrected, but you never invited me to do that. So no, I can't accept this money. And if I'm going to be your teacher, that needs to be a formal conversation that we're having. And they were just like, well, this is an invitation for all the times. Can we just cover it all? And I'm like, no, sir.
We just, right. It has a time limit.
Right. I need to get a degree right now, and you are my professor. Let's go.
Right. And Seven's good with boundaries, man. She taught me a lot about boundaries. No silent boundaries.
That Virgo energy.
Yes, honey.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot about Virgos recently.
Yeah. No.
Like Virgos and Scorpios, we go together. It is a thing. It is a thing that we do. But along the lines of that, like just understanding that. So may I ask, do you know what your type is?
I'm a generator.
A generator.
What's your profile? Do you know your profile? Your number?
I don't know. People have read it for me before, and they said, I just remember I'm a generator, and
okay.
I'm supposed to eat cold food. That's all I remember.
That's something. And as far as like, you don't remember the numbers that they gave you, like if you were a 1-3 or a 5-1 or anything like that. None of that. Okay.
No.
But even the generator,
yeah.
The generator is the biggest part of our population. I believe it's about 70%. Am I right, Casey? It's about 70% of the population are generators. And what's going on with you lovely folks is that you have sustained energy. The energy from the sacral chakra, which is life-giving, y'all have access to that consistently. And what ended up happening back in the day, we're talking like before 1781 specifically, I think it was the when we found Uranus, when we discovered Uranus.
Well, I'm an Aquarius too, so.
But when we discovered Uranus, like, before then, our manifestors were our leaders, and they were able to just manifest. They had these lovely, beautiful dreams and visions of things, and they would just be like, all right, we need to do this. They're great at initiating still to this day. And they would initiate our generators, our builders of our society, to make their dreams come true. But the problem was they were kind of like taking your energy, stealing it for themselves without your consent, without your knowledge, without your awareness. And you all were stuck building stuff that you had no passion for, that didn't light you up at all. And there is this still thing that's inside of you that's still happening to this day, where it's just like, oh, I don't want to just like, I want to work, but like, I don't want to like just be a part of a corporation that has no passion, no connection to my passion at all. So what you all are supposed to be doing is responding to that sacral chakra by responding. Like, so I ask you a question, hey, do you want to go eat some seafood? And is guttural responses that we're looking for, that you all naturally already do, but you gotta just pay attention to that. And when you start paying attention to it, when you like, oh, that's I don't want seafood. Ask me something else.
Actually, I do.
You start following your bliss.
Right.
Man. That's when you are able to empty your energy out into that thing, go home, sleep like a fucking baby, and you're able to do it again, because our work system is based off of how you all operate, where you can work for 8, 9, 12 hours, go to sleep at night, get regenerated because you have your own energy. The rest of us do not.
I know. People are like, how do you do all the shit that you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I wish I could give people this energy that I have, because I mean, people don't understand. They're like, okay, you have like 5 different Instagrams that you run. You have like your TikTok that you run that does good. You have your podcast. You make meditations for the Aura app. You have workbooks. You create all this stuff, and you still get up and go to the gym and walk your dogs, like, and hold down a job. Like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And the fact that you have the energy to sustain that, other folks do not.
Right.
Yeah.
They just, projectors and reflectors, we are non-energy types. We do not. Our manifestors of the world, they do have energy from their motor that they're connected to, because they have a motor connected to the throat. But like outside of that, like they work in sprints, to be honest with you, more so than you all can just like evenly just do that. And you said, I wish I could give my energy to people. You can. Your aura is big and enveloping. It invites people in, and they feel energized around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generators be setting me on fire. The dude, yeah, I'll just say that.
Yeah.
The dude.
So that's so cool. So how do you guys use human design every day? Like how do you work it in your everyday lifestyle? Like, how is it there? And then we'll also talk about like, how does astrology work into your everyday lifestyle as well?
I know. I mean, human design, for me, I am always checking myself, were you invited or not? Like, I'll have to hold my tongue sometimes. Where like Seven will talk when the boundaries thing, like I see when I meet people, I'm around people, I'll just get a lot of downloads because our aura is penetrating and absorbing. So like I'm getting a lot of their information. I'll use that a lot of times at work. So people will think like, oh, she always knows what I need before I need it. So that helps me during review time. And with my friends, like I'm able to feel out where they are in the moments. And I've learned not to take things personally because I'm a hermit. So it's like that, the thing with human design, it taught me to give myself grace, and it taught me to give grace to others. So it's like, I don't require as much from people anymore. Like I allow them to be like, this is who you are. Like I can look at it and see, okay, you have an open willpower center. I'm not going to get mad if you don't keep a promise. You literally don't have the energy to keep a promise. I'm also not going to place that expectation. So it's like it's my entire life at this point, like certain things when I look at, and not to jump ahead, but just putting it in, like with astrology, when I found astrology, I'm a Scorpio sun, Taurus moon, Capricorn rising. My mom is a Gemini, Cancer moon. Like growing up, I didn't think we got along. I felt she didn't like me. I was like, if we were friends, I wouldn't like you. But when I learned that she was more logical and I was more emotional space, I realized the way that she loved me was how she knows how to love. You know, so it's like learning astrology and learning human design. I'm able to allow people to be who they are. Instead, I realize what's my projections and what's really in front of me. So I think that, like Seven said, the manual, like I sometimes, and this is bad, but sometimes I take offense when I give people what human design and astrology is, and they don't look up my chart, and they don't look up like, what do you need to do to make things easier for me when we're interacting? So I think that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just that way to be, but I'm an opportunist, a 4-line. So I'm all about how people interact anyway, but that's really what it is for me. So you use that all the time.
Yeah, human design to me is very much so about how humans interact, and it reveals who your authentic self is, like who you were supposed to be without all of the conditioning, without all the commercials, without all of the advertisements, without the mess ups in your parental raisings, without, you know, your friends telling you like, you shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? So then you would hide that part of yourself. It reminds you who you are authentically and how to use this energy with the least resistance out here in the world. So for me, like understanding that I am a projector, which means that my aura is going to be like it's going to penetrate your aura. And a lot of people feel like that's a violation. So I have to get recognition and invitations as if we were talking about a man wanting to touch a woman's body. Like it has to be complete consent. And understanding that helps me to understand when people get so defensive, and I'm just like, I know this is going to work, and you're going to come back to me in 3 months and apologize to me about the fact that you're going off and I'm telling you this is the way. No, what they're reacting to is my lack of boundaries and my lack of awareness of understanding I didn't get consent to do so. So just small stuff like that, right? And then your strategy helps you understand even more so how to react in the resistance. So the strategy that we're talking about as for projectors is wait for the invitation, right? For generators, it's supposed to be wait to respond. You're supposed to respond to something with that gut feeling that you have, which my generators out there, make sure that you have your enzymes and your gut health on point.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
that's
the
a
whole
big
brain.
one.
You said what?
That's a big one. A lot of people, especially right there with the solar plex as well, for just a lot of people. I mean, so definitely. But how did you decide to go into astrology more? Like after you developed the human design and then you decide I'm going to become an astrologer, like what made you decide to go back to school and pick up astrology?
In that particular space that I was in, first of all, I wanted to know more about human design because she read me for Phil. Casey read me for Phil. So I was just like, how do you know these things? How? And you're not an astrologer? So like I said, I've always been interested in astrology, but I thought that I needed to know more about astrology before I knew about human design. So I started looking into YouTube and all of these, like trying to buy books to trying to learn. But I came across the Astrology podcast, which I recommend for everybody. Chris Brennan is the shit, okay? And
I love that podcast too.
You said what?
I said I love that podcast too.
Isn't it amazing? Oh my God, I'm not going to get into it. Then I'll fangirl out and we don't need that, right? But I found it and I enjoyed it so much. And I realized all the stuff that I had learned about astrology was pop astrology. And it was, the pop astrology is so diluted that there's no power in it. That's why it's so trendy, and they're allowing it for people to talk about it because they know there's no power behind what people are talking about. Like you can't use it for real in the state that it's in if we're talking about pop astrology. So that's what made me feel like, okay, there is real power in this. And I remember, especially when I was in school, learning stuff and past life regression, not past life regression, but past lives would come up, or I would be sitting on the couch and just crying because it felt like I was finally where I was supposed to be. My whole entire life, I've been trying, that's why I have a degree in psychology. I've been trying to help people and give them the right information for them to do the right things in their life. Like, I just want to help. And in each space that I was trying to help, whether it was in church or whether it was in this therapy space, it was really hard to do. There were all these hurdles. You can't really tell anybody practically what to do in therapy. You just ask them questions so they can figure it out pretty much. And it was just like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to actually help. So when astrology came along, I was like, yeah, buddy, like I could actually help. Like the thing that I just put out about Libra season and the kidneys connecting together. Like, this is a good time where we practically love ourselves by paying attention to our kidneys. This thing that works for us every day, no matter if we're having sex, no matter if we're cussing somebody out, no matter if we're driving to get some sex, like, it doesn't matter. Like, these kidneys are still, they're still helping us, and we just don't pay attention. So Libra season is a good time for us to love on our kidneys, eat some kidney supporting food, and drink our goddamn water. You know what I mean? Like, that's practical stuff. How do I love myself? You keep telling me to love myself. How do I do that? These are the small little steps that we do, and we get it from medical astrology or astrology in general. So I use astrology in everything. Everything. I knew that my solar return was coming up. I knew that I was going to be a Mars Gemini person. That I was going to embody that energy. And I literally, this book right here, I have been reading this textbook, okay? Like it's a New York best-selling book, like just reading it. Like who does that? A Mars and Gemini person would, you know what I mean? But I already knew that was going to happen. I had 2 deaths in the family, knew that was going to happen. Like I already knew. So that's how I use astrology, to give me a heads up on what's about to happen through lunar return, solar return, and other techniques from traditional astrology. But I use human design to help me in my everyday interactions with my generator husband and my generator
generator.
You know what I mean? Like that's how I do it.
Yeah. That's amazing. So what do you guys like? How did you collaborate? Are you guys working together with like other people, or where are you guys at together with this friendship and cosmic companionship where you're like
that.
getting aligned and helping people? You guys have like some adventures coming up, or?
Casey is one of the most brilliant people spiritually that I have ran into. And when we talk about the lines, like I'm a 1-3, that's part of like the human design. It's like asking what your rising, moon, and sun sign is, right? In astrology, the way that they do it in human design, they ask you what your type is and what your profile is, you know, like that's what they ask. And authority, that's like the third one, in your authority. So I'm a projector, I'm a 1-3, and I'm a splenic authority, right? So understanding that and knowing that about her, she's a 2-4, she's a natural genius, but she needs to be pulled out.
You do.
Like you have to constantly be on her to pull her out, because I think they described it in the book as my 2 lines are folks who are like seeds that are in your drawer waiting to be put into the ground. And you call them out and you say, hey man, you're a genius. My husband's a 2-4 as well. You're a freaking you're fucking genius. You're fucking genius. Let's get to it.
Right.
And they just want to be at home.
They do. They
does. Go home. That's all they want to do is want to be home, doing what they want to do, being naked and eating good food. That's really all they want to do.
You take my clothes off as soon as I get home. I don't like clothes on. That's cool.
So to answer your question, when it comes to human design, I know my friend.
Right.
My friend, when she's ready, we do stuff.
Right.
So when you see us do stuff together, it's because she's ready.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to push her to do anything until she's ready, because it doesn't make any sense to do it.
Yeah, you
on
can.
top of the fact that she is a Taurus moon. So like, I'm talking to a wall until she wants to do it.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. But I love my friend. I love her. And I know that when she is ready, the flowers that come, the resources that come, like it's going to be out of this world. So that's how we hiccup ourselves, and that's how we do events. Like when she's ready, we do them.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. Well, let me know, how can everybody find you? Like, where are you guys at? Do you want people to contact you, or is Casey like, nope, don't message me because I am not messaging you back?
Message back when I can. I do.
Okay, Taurus moon.
I know. I'm working. I know. I think that's like the responsibility of getting into alignment so that you're able to answer the call when called upon. But I will respond. You can find me everywhere. Casey Rihanna, CASEYREANNA. That's everything. I try to keep it all the same, so it all comes up under Google.
Nice. Okay. I'll have all the links in the show notes as well.
Oh, that's good.
And I'm Black Girl Magi. across the board. The only time that you're gonna have to add that extra I is on Instagram, because somebody already had Black Girl Magi. So I had to add an extra I in order to like for you to find me.
Ooh,
But
tomato,
Black Girl
tomato.
Magi. You said what?
I said tomato, tomato to the first one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Black Girl Magi across the board. And I do have a Patreon. So if you are interested in actually learning astrology, because like I've banged this point home, astrologers used to be the counsel to the king. They were considered wise men. The people who found Jesus with the three wise men were three magi's, and they were three men who were from the East because they studied stars. They were astrologers. So if you're interested in learning it in a scholarly way, and you're bringing your mind with you to really break this stuff down, like my Patreon is where you need to be. And it's like the first tier is like $10. Like it's not even gonna be, I promise you, I'm a teacher at heart. I teach on my off days. So like, I'm gonna give you the stuff that you want. So follow me on Black Girl Magi, and I'm on Patreon, Instagram, and TikTok.
And that's amazing. And I love the fact that you brought up that you have a Patreon, because I feel like so many people now are coming out of this center where it's like teachers are, and wise people, like wise women, knowledge-based practitioners come from different areas besides like the classroom, right? Besides the books, right? There's different areas to receive knowledge. So I love that you have a Patreon and you brought that up. So thank you guys so much for being on Chakras and Cuss Words. Everybody give this podcast a like, a follow, and a share. So thank you.
Thank you.
This was great. This was a lot of fun. Ask us on again. We would love to be here.
Yes, definitely. Bye, everybody. I'm just gonna.
Happy early birthday, Casey.
Thank you.